My name's Tony Holland. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm now retired, but for many years I worked in the field of learning disability and Prader-Willi syndrome specifically, both as a clinician seeing patients, but also as a researcher. When I was training in psychiatry, I happened to be allocated to a placement which involved seeing children with disabilities. And that really was the start of a career within the psychiatry of intellectual disabilities, so looking at behavior problems. And in that context, I saw someone with Prader-Willi syndrome, and that led to a whole career, if you like, in the field of Prader-Willi syndrome. One of the things about people with Prader-Willi syndrome is one has tremendous admiration for how they themselves and their parents deal with what are sometimes the most challenging situations. If you think about food and how food is everywhere, so how on earth do you live in an environment where food is everywhere, and then some of the temper outbursts and this sort of thing, it's a major challenge. So it's the respect in some ways for how people cope that draws you to this field. Mainly, it's asking specific questions about some of the behavioral mental health issues relevant to the needs of people with Prader-Willi syndrome, rather than looking particularly at the impact of that on the wider family, for example. So I'm interested in really trying to understand these behavior problems and the mental health problems in order to ultimately to find ways of treating them. I would hope that it is. I do think that helping parents understand their child with Prader-Willi syndrome is actually really important. Now, at the moment, in terms of particular treatments, we are rather limited. But the starting point is help parents to make sense of why does their child want to continue to eat and is at risk from obesity? Why does their child have these emotional outbursts or skin picks or whatever? Because through understanding, I think parents can sometimes adjust their approach and make a difference. In the longer term, one would hope to see some more specific treatments for these problems. But at the moment, it's much about helping parents understand and therefore help them develop the best support strategies for their son or daughter. Both national and international Prader-Willi community is really a very special community, and it brings together professionals, care providers, families, people with Prader-Willi syndrome from all over the world, and there's something really quite unique about that. And what it also makes you realize is the disparities that exist in the world in terms of whether the diagnosis is made promptly, how accurate the diagnosis is, whether there's information available to people. Life expectancy may differ, one suspects, across the world, depending on whether people understand the need to supervise the food environment and so on. So it's a very special group of people to work with. One of the difficulties is to know how to limit that information because it can be overwhelming. I think nowadays, that information is out there, and there are sources where you can be confident the information is reliable, is sensible information. Because one is always concerned about there being poor and poorly informed information, if you like, out there. But I think it's there for people. What you also need, though, is for parents to have the opportunity, having read that, to then discuss it with people, because you don't want parents or others, professionals or whatever, to get the wrong end of the stick by reading and then go along a route which really is not very helpful. So I think you need a combination of the information being out there, but knowing people and having the opportunity to meet people who can talk through it with you. But I do believe this is a very interesting time for the Prader-Willi world, if you like. I do think there are potentials for new treatments that could be transformative for people with Prader-Willi syndrome. I think the frustration is we don't know that until the trials are done and more research is done. But I feel more optimistic now than I have at any time, certainly from my career's point of view. I think it's really very exciting.